Now, the other thing we haven't talked about, I know we're running out of time, they got to get the ball to their tight ends. Not a single catch for Luke Lachey Saturday. Ridiculous. Insane. Best tight end of the Big Ten, maybe, and you don't. And by the way, here's what's extra weird about that. And I haven't gone back and looked at the tape, but they didn't get a single catch again for Luke Lachey. Had him targeted 4 times against a Iowa State linebacker group that we talked about was decimated by injury heading into the game, and then lost another guy during the game. And they weren't able to. Now, really good safeties, okay, and really good defensive coordinator. Got to give John Haycock credit. That had to be a point of emphasis. Their best weapons, Luke Lachey. We're going to try to shut him down. But you got to get the ball to your tight ends. This is tight end you, and Luke Lachey is a really good tight end, maybe the best tight end in the Big Ten, and they got to do better. He's got to do better. I mean, he'll say that. I'm sure he shares part of that responsibility in running better routes and making catches, but there's so many things to take away from Saturday. Hopefully it's a learning experience.
What happened with the blunders from the back end of the defense, and are you concerned that could be a trend?
Not really, because, again, Mark, we talked about this heading into the game. Iowa State's one of those teams. I don't know how many other teams on the schedule, with the exception being maybe Ohio State, maybe Nebraska. I didn't watch the Nebraska game Saturday because I was live on the post-game show. It sounded like they looked really good in the first half and then kind of sat on the lead for the rest of the game. But I don't know that there's a lot of other teams that have the wide receiver room that Iowa State does. I mean, Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll are really good. Those two guys are better than advertised.
They are good.
Really good, Mark.
But this wide receiver room that's coming up in about 3 weeks.
Well, that's not, I said, with the exception being Ohio State.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. And so my point is, I don't know that there's going to be a lot of other rooms besides Ohio State that are going to be able to really stretch the field against Iowa's defense, especially since Phil Parker will clean this up. You got to have confidence in him in coaching these guys up. Xavier Wampa got pulled. How about a guy getting pulled for performance? He gives up a 75-yard play, flat-footed, and he gets pulled for a guy who was coming off a serious knee injury in Cohen Entringer. That's coaching. Sometimes it needs to be done. It doesn't happen at quarterback. It happens at other positions. And once again, Jay Higgins, Jay Higgins took responsibility for that play. That's being a great teammate. He said, hey, I didn't do my job on the play and that affected the outcome. That's just being a great team. How many times have we heard that? Jack Campbell taking responsibility, when they lose 9-6. I mean, that's just what these leaders, that's what makes this defense so good. And they didn't have the best of days. Now, the first half was phenomenal. The defense played great in the first half. But give credit, Iowa State's really explosive, and they made a couple of plays in that second half. And when Iowa's offense failed to convert, Iowa State took advantage of it. That's what the game came down to. A couple of plays.
The offensive line performance was a bit strange in that Kirk has been touting this offensive line, and you have had that wait and see attitude that, okay, they got this veteran offensive line. These guys have been around forever, and Kirk's touting them as being a strength of this team. Well, if you take 80 to 90% of the run plays, they were phenomenal. But we just went through situations where when there were short yardage situations where you really need to move people out of the way, they didn't get the job done.
Yeah, I mean, but again, they ran 6 pass plays inside the six. They should have ran the ball more. They ran 3 runs, and they didn't run Caleb. I don't know that Caleb Johnson maybe got one of those runs. You got to give your big back one of those runs inside the 5. 6 pass plays too many. And then the other thing is, there was a play or two there where Iowa State just shot a gap up the middle, and one of them was a loss. And Kirk brought that up during his press conference today. So there were some big errors by the offensive line in big moments. And I still think a few too many negative runs. But I do think, again, I have a lot of respect for John Haycock. They're tough to scheme against. And that's one of the better, even though the front I thought might be susceptible, and they were at times. Hey, Iowa had over 200 total yards on the ground. But at times, they still caused problems. And you would expect nothing less from that defensive staff.
Caleb Johnson is 4th in the nation in rushing.
And yet Iowa's 1-1 after playing 2 games at home.
And a huge game, a huge loss. And Kirk was asked about, he was asked a kind of college football playoff slanted type question, of which I actually was impressed with his answer because he seems to be more in the mode of we need to win these games and win them every Saturday. You know, he didn't talk about the playoff, but I don't know why there have to be these veiled questions and these veiled answers, why you can't just say this was a big loss concerning what should be your goal of making the college football playoff. I don't know why somebody can't just ask that.
Because if they ask that, Kirk will say, well, we're not thinking about the playoff.
Well,
That's what
he
he'll
did
say.
allude to big goals, and he said something about the national scene. He said something that made it very obvious that he understood you're talking about the playoff, and this is a huge loss concerning our playoff chances.
And I know a lot of people are the Kirk apologists. You know, I got a lot of respect for Kirk, but I'm going to criticize when feeling to be critical. The Kirk apologists who don't like that will come on here and say, what a bunch of garbage. You ripped Kirk for an hour. Let me say this. If there's one thing Kirk does really well, and it was talked about during the press conference today, he rallies the troops. So this team, somebody asked the question after the game, is the season over? No. He will rally these guys. And Mark, would it be any surprise to you if after a potential Ohio State loss, Iowa goes into that Nebraska game on a 6-game winning streak?
No.
I wouldn't be shocked by that. And the schedule's favorable. I could see them. I could see them winning. Let's see, counting Troy and Minnesota, they may be a stretch of 8 and 9 wins heading into the final game of the season, and that may be a game that gets them to 10-2 and into the Big Ten championship game. Whoa, people don't like hearing that, right? But that's the reality because they'd be 8-1, and it would come down to maybe a tiebreaker. And that may knock them out of the playoff because they probably lose that title game, and then they'd be 10-3. And, those are the discussions that we could have. But so I don't know. What would be better? Would it be better to go to the title game and roll the dice there? Or would it be better to be 10-2 and sit on it? I don't know. But he'll rally the troops. These guys won't quit. And you just hope that the right corrections can be made. And I just wish more of these game management things had been addressed by Kirk. But it is what it is.
I am right there with you. I was on Michigan podcast today, and as we were preparing to start to record, Aaron, can't think of his last name, but Aaron, he's Steve Dace's sidekick on the Michigan podcast, or the Bigger 10, I should say. He asked me, because he's an Iowa guy, he's an Iowa fan. He said, is this thing going to come off the rails? I'm still just pissed off about that game on Saturday. Is this thing coming off the rails? I said, this is the last program in America that I can think of where I have any concern of it coming off the rails.
Yeah.
Because of the head coach, the culture, the program, the character of the players, it's not coming off the rails.
Agree.
Good stuff. Corey, thanks for being here. Thanks for making this happen for us each and every Tuesday, of course. And from the Hawkeye of the Storm should be the daily destination for all of you Iowa fans and just college football fans. If you want to follow one of the contenders in the Big Ten that still has a pretty clear path. Yes, their percentage chances of making the playoff took a enormous hit, I'm sure, if you track the official analytics. I would say they went from 50% to 20% realistically.
You think they had a 50% chance of making the playoffs before this game?
Yeah, because they had a 50% chance of going 10-2.
Okay. I still think they got a good shot at going 10-2. Call me crazy.
Well, I picked them 10-2, and I did not designate those 2 losses, but certainly this one was in my back pocket as a possibility.
Sure, absolutely, and I agree. I picked them to beat Iowa State, but I thought preseason it's one of those games. I thought Nebraska's one of those games. I stand by that. But let me just say this: they go to Ohio State. That may think that's a pipe dream. They go to Ohio State and win. They're right back on the playoff table. Right. Like everybody, people are going to start talking about them as, hey, okay, now the schedule's real favorable. They got to win at Ohio State. Even if you lost another one at that, that's another conversation we could have. They lose against Nebraska week 12 or whatever that is, and end up, say they miss out on the Big Ten championship game. But their 2 losses are home Iowa State, home Nebraska, but a win at Ohio State. Do they get in at 10-2? Very, very intriguing stuff.
Their 10-2 is going to be helped out, even if they lose against Ohio State, if they perform well.
And if they were to beat Ohio State and go 10-2, they'd have the tiebreaker against Ohio State in a head-to-head matchup for the Big Ten title.
Yes, they would.
Lots to be.
Yeah, I'm not going
lots
to
to
discount their chances of winning in Columbus. I think they can win that game.